Hey, what's going on, everybody? We want to welcome you all to another episode of the lovely Counterpoise podcast. And this week we have a great show up on deck. I am your host, Everett Stevenson, joined with some of my lovely co-hosts as well.
Hey, I'm Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am third co-host, Samantha Adams. And we definitely have something good in store for you today. The title of today's episode is called What's the Cost? And today we're going to talk about compromises and sacrifices that Black people are faced with while they're climbing up the executive and professional ladder. And so that whole time I was talking and I was on mute. So sorry about that, guys. But yep, I'm Samantha Adams. I'm the third co-host. And today we're talking about what's the cost. And what that means is what we're going to delve into is pretty much what we're going to delve into is the sacrifices and compromises that Black folks make while they're trying to climb the professional and executive ladder. And so we have a couple of videos that we're going to do some reactions on and go over, and that should be fun. So why don't we just dive right in?
Yeah, 1 second. We have a video here that I'm about to pull up shortly. And this week, while we were talking about, coming up with a topic, I thought that this video would be an excellent video for us to watch, as it was one in which I felt that truly kind of showed the mindset of executive. And this was someone who was a music executive and spent a good amount of his career working with a lot of different talented artists. This is a video clip from Steve Stout's interview from The Breakfast Club, and I will have this one queued up here in just a second for us, guys. Here we go. All right.
Steve doesn't have any control. Like Jay don't have no control. Tim don't have no control. I can tell you, those are all non-facts. Nobody's playing that. Nobody's walking in the game in these rooms cooling for nobody. Nobody. I'm telling you that right now. Nobody's walking in these rooms cooling. Yo, I'm just happy to be here, sir. Fuck that. No one's doing none of that. None of that. I have not done that at all. And no one's doing that right now. And I'm not saying that there wasn't a time where that was on the table. It's not happening at all. You know you're not doing that. Mm-hmm. You're not doing that. No one's doing that. Why would you do that? Mm-hmm. You have the confidence of knowing that you got. Steve doesn't have any control. Like Jay don't have no control. So it's like Tim have no control. I can tell you, those are all non-facts. Nobody's playing that. Nobody's walking in.
All right, so that was a clip of Steve Stout, and that was him in his interview on The Breakfast Club. And it was pretty interesting for me from that standpoint of watching it, because it showed that here's someone who we've watched, at least me personally, and being a fan of hip hop, being a fan of, and speaking of, rest in peace to DMX. This past week we lost a giant in the hip hop game, but seeing as how he's been someone who's been around for that era of hip hop to now the newer era of hip hop, and seeing different genres of artists kind of come through, and him to be able to have success at an executive level at that point in time in his career, I think shows that it was funny and interesting rather to see, like, at a point where he kind of paused when they asked him, like, well, I've never done this, or I've never shucked and jived, or, this, that, and the third, and kind of like pauses for a second, and it kind of like looks off to see, like, well, like, have I or whatnot. And I think, like, a lot of times, when people get to certain positions, that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about, like, where there's this level of, in order for you to be here, you have to show that, you're loyal to being here, and that you play ball, if you will, that you're a part of, what this culture is, and what we want to have here in this organization. And for us, as we know, a lot of these organizations aren't built around our culture. They're not built around, maybe some of the ideologies that we have grown up around. So they may want you to adapt a mindset that may be, counter to your nature. And I think that's some of the things that he was talking about, where you don't see us cooning, and even to the point where it's not even just, counter, it's detrimental, because you're now, displaying things that are harmful to the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think I don't think he was telling the truth, because I think people in the music industry and the entertainment industry do coon per se. Even Jay-Z, he had his cooning moment, especially with the whole Colin Kaepernick situation. I don't know if y'all guys remember, but basically, Jay-Z had a partnership. He has a partnership actually with the NFL, and he's supposed to be bringing about change. And then he also did an interview where he was basically saying, like, if I recall correctly, he's mentioning they had asked him about like his interactions with police. And he's saying, well, if you basically behave yourself, you'd be all right. Basically making it seem like it's Black people's fault. Long story short, that's the reason why the cops are treating them that way. So Jay-Z does his shuck and jive, for business, to get ahead in business. I mean, it is what it is, but they do coon to get benefits now. Like that's the long story short. And Jay-Z has done so, because that guy, he specifically named Jay-Z, and Jay-Z has definitely done some cooning to get to where he's at. And that's just an example of it.
I think that's one of the things where we kind of like look at, because I know Tone has talked about this, and I've heard, person like Zoe Williams has mentioned these things, and it's like symbolism, right? And it's kind of how I think a lot of times we grow up, and this lady that I'm about to mention in a few minutes, we grow up and we're so used to seeing these people win in society, and we're so used to seeing these people, itemize success for us, as far as financial success, as far as maybe what would seem to be commercial success. And then we internalize that into thinking that means that these are good people. And so, like you said, with the situation with Jay-Z, for those who may not be aware, Jay was one of the people that stood for standing with Colin Kaepernick as he was standing for injustice against police brutality, or just injustice against people in America in general. And during that time frame, he took a knee. At that point in time, he ended up getting blackballed from the NFL for taking that stance. At which point in time, Jay-Z was one of the individuals in China to say, we stand with Cap, we're right there behind him. We're gonna, boycott the NFL and stop watching it. And then a few years later,
he has a deal with the NFL.
With the NFL, and with the understanding of it's a deal to work with the NFL, with the mindset of them being individuals who will be, individuals who will be working with, I believe it was a community development type of deal or something like that.
Yeah, it was a community development.
Yeah, too. But I guess if we're giving Biden time to see how he, does with the people, we're supposed to be giving this to Jay as well with that NFL deal. So that's something I think we got to watch for. But what I was going to get to, as far as like another person who symbolizes success in this world, would be Oprah Winfrey. And that was another woman who we looked at and we say, a lot of times, but recently she's come under fire because of the R. Kelly documentary. And I think it was another person she did the documentary on, or was about to do one of Russell Simmons. And it was like, oh, you keep attacking these people, but you didn't do one on Harvey Weinstein. And you kind of hang out with Harvey. Like, how are you picking and choosing who you want to go with? And that's the type of stuff that we're talking about. People who are in success, who pick and choose to deal with, you know, these companies that maybe not are beneficial for the community as a whole, but also, you know, benefits them as individuals.
So I think number one, I probably more so agree with Malik as far as cooning goes. Okay, I don't know wherever just went. He'll be right back. But yeah, as far as cooning goes, I agree with Malik. I do think that people do coon, Black folks do coon, including Jay-Z, to get to where they are. He might not have to now, but he certainly has. And the comment I think that you were looking for before, Malik, was when he was pretty much saying, after supporting the whole Kaepernick situation, was when he started talking about how we need to just move past it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
let it go. And it's like, no, because Black people are still getting killed by police.
Right.
Like that was the whole purpose of the thing. You don't
he
move
did a
past
360
it.
out here.
Yeah, like it's one thing if Black people were not still being killed by police, and so Kaepernick didn't have a reason to take the stance anymore, and people were still just making a big deal about it. But people are still making a big deal about it because Black folks are still getting, Black men specifically, I mean Black women too, but mostly Black men are getting killed by police. Case in point, George Floyd, sorry, let me rephrase that. The Derek Chauvin case is happening as we speak for killing George Floyd. You know what I mean? So I definitely think folks coon, they shuck and jive the whole 9 yards just to try to get to a certain place. So I mean, but right, and Steve Stout might feel free to say, ain't nobody doing that because he don't got to do that anymore. You know, a lot of times what happens is people they get to this certain level of success and they forget about where they came from. They forget about the things that are going on outside the scope of their own space. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So they become a little bit out of touch. So when Jay-Z made the statement of you know, oh, time to move past it, that was a little out of touch. You know what I mean? Steve Stout saying Black folks ain't cooning. Dude, yes, they are. You know what I'm saying? Yes, they are. They're cooning every day. I mean, but that leads to other things, right? Like that leads to what does their life look like? You know what I'm saying? What does their life look like as it relates to their relationships with other people, not just their work relationships, the image that they have created for themselves, and things like that. And I mean, I think that's a good segue to go into the next video.
I was definitely going to I wanted to jump into that real fast, which was because you talked about that, which was interesting enough, and about celebrities and the question of, you know, are they selling out their culture and Black culture and things. And so we have a clip of the interview in which Kanye West was asked, you know, did he think that he sold out Black culture? And this is an old interview from, I think, when he was doing the Crisis King album. So I see he has some of that gear on, but we're going to go ahead and play that video for you guys here momentarily.
What do you say to people that say you turned your back on the culture or
exactly 100%? I have turned my back on the idea of victimization mentality. We are locked up. We went from 1-4. We went from 1-4 to 1-3, but we always pointing at the white people, but yet we want to spend all of our money on foreigners. We want to spend money on luxury as opposed to going and buying some land. America is for sale, and there's a lot of barren land. Disney bought a lot of it in Florida, but the culture has you focused so much on fucking somebody bitch and pulling up in a foreign and rapping about things that could get you locked up and then saying you about prison reform. Like, it's, bro, we brainwashed out here, bro.
what do you say to people that say you turned your back on the culture or
exactly 100%? I have turned my back on the idea of victimization.
So I don't agree with Kanye, but then again, I don't agree with Kanye a lot of times. I see what he's saying and I understand where he's coming from, but I don't agree with him. Reason for that is because what he's saying is very, very linear. First and foremost, are there lots of rappers out there that rap about crimes they never committed and cars they don't have and chicks they didn't have sex with? Yes. Or chicks they will have sex with, or cars they do have, or crimes they did commit? Yes. But first of all, that's not the only type of rap out there. And second of all, these record labels, a lot of record labels encourage that in order for it to be a hit. They encourage it, they pay them to do it. And what happens is they too sell out, right? But you have plenty of other rappers out there that don't do that. You know what I mean? It's so to try to say, as far as the hip hop culture is, not just Black culture, but hip hop culture specifically, to try to pigeonhole hip hop like that is, in my opinion, is another miscarriage from Kanye. Because to know and love and understand hip hop, its origins and where it comes from and where it is, its state right now, is to know that it's not just one dimensional, right? First of all, he's just talking about the genre of music when hip hop is a whole culture. It's a way of making money. I mean, it's clothing, it's dancing, it's style, it's language, it's all that stuff. And for Kanye to make that kind of statement, knowing he's making money with his Yeezus sneakers, which falls in line with hip hop culture, he's double talking. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily agree with the statement that he made, but I do believe that Black folks have in some ways been brainwashed, but some of that comes from lack of education, not knowing that you could have more, environment, things that they've always been exposed to. Like a lot of times these rappers, a lot of them, when they're rapping about stuff like that, they've only been exposed to a limited amount of things. And so the things that they're talking about are often things that they desire. Or, you know, and even if once they get it, if they don't, you know, if they're not flashy about it, that's part of the image. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is like that. That's all everybody ever wants to do is just, you know, excuse my French, but fuck bitches and get money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I believe that there's a lot more to it than that. You know what I mean? And I think that I think sometimes Kanye's mental health issues get the best of him. I pray for Kanye often, but I just don't agree with him a lot of times. But that's just my take on what he said.
Yeah, my thoughts about what Kanye said was it was very interesting. He points out that you know, that these artists are promoting you know, shopping foreign and, you know, I guess other things like, you know, drugs or whatever else they promote, right? And they're not promoting actually getting assets and trying to get ahead, right? Because Kanye was saying that, you know, Disney, they're buying up land, so land is an asset, real estate, and you know, you're too worried about buying like these foreign designer clothes and this shiny stuff, and you're not focused on getting assets, and you're too focused on blaming, like, you know, white people or white supremacy or whatever you want to blame for your condition, and you're not trying to get on code and help yourself out. That's what I got from it. Like, you know, of course Kanye does his little cooning stuff and he does all this other stuff. It could just be for entertainment or for whatever reasons he's saying some outlandish things that he says, but those statements there to me wasn't him like specifically cooning, but just saying like, hey, you know, you gotta stop playing the victim. You actually have to do the work, because no one's gonna actually just hand you stuff just because they feel sorry for you, because they would have been did it. So you gotta actually demand stuff. You gotta get up off your bottom and just actually get to work and try to get those assets, because that's what's gonna break you out of your struggles, right? Acquiring assets. So that's what I got from what Kanye was saying. Like, I think he wasn't really cooning like that. I think he was saying some truths there. Like a lot of Black people, specifically in the Black community, they like to just blame their condition on others and not get on code and not self-evaluate themselves and just play the victim and not just do what needs to be done to get ahead in life.
Let me push back a little bit on that, Malik. You know,
Get a statement in there real quick.
yeah, I mean, just let me say what I gotta say real quick, and you got it. Couple things. Number one, when you talk about Black people trying to come out of their situation, you have to talk about opportunity, right? Everybody isn't afforded the same opportunities, and I think that it's kind of tone deaf to not acknowledge the fact that everybody's not afforded the same opportunities, and everybody doesn't have the same mentality. A lot of times that also has to do with role models and who they have to look up to. And I get what he's saying. That's why I say I get what he's saying. But the other part about what he's talking about was when he mentioned Disney getting all that land and all that. Number one, Walt Disney was a white man, and he got the land at a time where white people could get land and Black people couldn't buy houses in the same neighborhoods as white people. So, you also got to think about what's going on historically in those times and things like that. And I think that we have to be careful to not pay attention to the fact that everybody isn't afforded the same opportunities, regardless if it's in line with education, finances, and stuff like that. And also, too, there's plenty of rappers out there to talk about obtaining assets, buying land, doing things that can double your money. Rick Ross is one of them. Nipsey Hussle was another one. They do that all the time. So, I just wanted to throw that in there. Go ahead, E.
Oh yeah, I was just jumping in mainly to say that, like, I thought that what he said in that interview, I thought was real. I think a lot of times he says a lot of things that comes across as maybe like in the moment. You know what I'm saying? It comes across in the moment as something that might not necessarily be how do I want to say this? Like, it might not necessarily be it doesn't come across
politically correct
or real received, but I think like the deeper meaning behind it is a lot of times on point. And I think, like he said, a lot of people are brainwashed into doing certain things. And I can agree with that. I think one of the things that he said was one of the first things you want to do in society is show that you can buy foreign cars, you know what I'm saying? You can buy, foreign cars and clothes and jewelry and things of that nature. And I think we all, you know what I'm saying, all can know that, that's I know me personally, I can say like that's definitely been one of the things like I felt like when you kind of get to a certain point in life that you should have they call them status symbols, if you will, or we say trophies, you know what I'm saying, coming up that like it just shows where you at in life. And so one of the things that I think he was saying is like, why do we even look to have trophies to show like, that we have certain things? And I've heard people argue that, one of the reasons that we have those type of things is because we're not, used to having things. So the only way that you can feel good is to show that you got something that others don't. And you could try to, shine on somebody else and to make them feel bad. So that's why he said like, getting jewelry or for somebody else's girl or, doing these type of things, make you feel good. And that's fine on lower level stuff because that's all you kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like that's low level. But like when you start to think about, generational wealth and being able to have sustainable living and things of that nature, it requires land, that requires infrastructure, that requires things that are bigger than just, smaller tokens, isms that are placed in this world that make people think that that's important or it gives them status, even though in reality, these aren't necessarily the things that's going to be the most beneficial towards having a more productive and environment. And I also want to go back to that point too, because, I thought that it really segued well into where we were going to go with the next clip that we had. I don't know if anybody wanted to push back on what I was just saying.
Yeah, I have a little bit of pushback while you pull the video up. I don't think that everybody tries to obtain these quote unquote trophies just so they can shine on somebody else. Sometimes it's literally just so they feel good about the fact that they worked hard to get to where they are. And also, it can be an example to others to show them that, hey, I worked hard and I got this, you can do it too. It's not always just a stunt on the next man. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I think that, but the thing is, something you touched on about people not having that, when you think about just the hood, just the projects, right? Just think about one housing project, and you think about the influences that are present in that place. Some people have the ability to think outside the box and say, okay, I'm in this very refined space, and this is all I see. And some people can see beyond that. And those that only see within that box that they're in, the only things that they have to see are not necessarily positive images of people that look like them. You know what I mean? But then those, like, okay, I was in a busing program, right? If I didn't go to that busing program for grade school, I don't know what my mentality would be like. But that busing program brought me to a suburban school where most of the kids I went to were well off. You know what I mean? $1 million homes, big mansions, all that other kind of stuff. And I was able to see, oh my God, look at how all these people are able to obtain so much more than I already have. You know what? I can do that too, especially too when you're also in an environment where you're continuously being fed and told that you can grow, you can have this too. Most people in those types of environments don't have that. They're not being fed that. They're not being told that they can acquire more than what they have, and they're not being told that they can acquire assets, not just foreign cars and other trophies. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, no, I didn't want to, like, whenever I speak, I'm definitely not speaking from a standpoint of a totality. I'm mostly speaking from more so like maybe I would like to believe a majority type of viewpoint. So like that's why I said that, because being honest, I think, when just, locker room talk, if you will, whatever, conversation is that, like, you know what I mean? What do you have? Like, what is status? And I think just being on a more superficial level too, when you talk about dating and things of that nature, it is, what resources do you have? How can you show me that, you have things to, show that you have expendable income and things of that nature. So from that standpoint, that's why I said, like, that whole showing that you have wealth and things of that nature, that's where I came in. But I don't want you to make that statement to be known as it's a blanket. Every person does that. I'm just saying, like, getting caught up and feeling like, oh, well, I want to go get a chain, or I want to go do this because, you know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what you do when you up. That does happen. And I think it is something that, you have to question as you kind of, continue to, make those decisions. And is this things that I think that I really want, or is this something that I think that I want for society? And like I say, that's definitely something that we all have to look at. But I also think what he was talking about too within that video was just, again, being able to say, hey, as I'm going, not idealizing, you know what I'm saying, certain type of cultural things, and or excuse me, certain type of like wealth, if it was foreign wealth, I think cars and things of that nature. I believe that was a great segue for this video in which we're about to watch next. And just to kind of give you a background of that, it is a clip from Coach Hubert Davis, who was mainly being touted as the headline was on like the first Black UNC head coach in UNC history. So it was pretty big news. Most people know North Carolina is a pretty powerhouse in college basketball, and a prestigious institution in that regards. The great Michael Jordan went there along with other people. Rasheed Wallace, he was a great Piston as well, or a Piston for a while as well. A great, you can say, brought us a ring. Anywho, and numerous other players. Julius Peppers, a few more. But in this clip, we're going to see if this was his press conference for the interview. Pardon me. I don't know what I just did there. Open and blow it up. Okay. Here we go. Can you guys see? All right.
Steve, it's significant that I'm African American and I'm the head coach here.
it's significant. I know that in terms of Division I head coaches all around the country, only 26% of the head coaches for Division I men's basketball are compromised by minorities, specifically African Americans. I know that it is significant that I'm the fourth African American head coach in any sport in the history of the University of North Carolina. I'm very proud to be African American, but I'm also very proud that my wife is white. And I'm very proud that my 3 beautiful, unbelievable kids are a combination of both of us. It is significant, Steve. It's significant that
So I'm a firm believer that people should love who they love, right? I don't care what their nationality is, their sexual orientation is, any of that. But I just don't understand why he felt like he needed to say that. Like I understood him talking about himself, right? But I don't understand the need to discuss the pride that he has in his wife being white and his children being biracial. I don't understand the purpose.
$3 billion solar panels. They're a new generation of super powerful solar panels that was just.
Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I don't understand yeah, I don't understand the reason. I don't understand the purpose. While Everett's getting that together, Malik, do you have any thoughts about that? Because I just don't. I mean, congratulations to him, you know, for real. Like, I'm not trying to be funny or sarcastic or anything like that. Like, straight up, big shout out to him for becoming one of only 4 Black coaches in the university's history. And shout out to him for even just becoming a basketball coach at college level. Like, I mean, that's a great accomplishment. They make good money. Shout out to him for that. I just don't understand the point of making that statement.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, Sam. I think he was trying. It's weird that he shifted the focus about like, hey, you know, it's significant that you know, I'm a Black coach here at this university, the first Black coach in the program's history, and also there's only 26% of minority coaches, specifically Black coaches in Division I basketball, even though they're majority of players. So there's a gap there. So it's okay for white people. Once again, they get paid primarily from Black people's labor. That's free labor. So that's essentially a form of slavery, essentially, because those kids can't even make any money doing anything. So that's criminal right there in my eyes, right? Second, I think he shifted the focus from his, you know, just the pro-Black stuff to like, okay, to the white stuff, like, oh yeah, I'm proud of my white wife and our biracial kids, is to let them know that, hey, look, I'm a Black man, but I'm still on y'all side. You know, I'm still, you know, he still had to do his little cooning bit. Like his wife, her being white has nothing to do with him being the first Black head coach. Like she has nothing to do with your Blackness. She's not Black. And even if she was a Black wife, he could have just said, I'm proud of my wife. Like you don't need to bring her race into it. So you're making it an issue when it doesn't need to be an issue. It's supposed to be the fact that, you know, the University of North Carolina is trying to turn around their program. They're trying to promote diversity. That's the thing. It shouldn't be about, you know, your white wife and your white kids. What do they have to do with this? Leave them out of that. Like that was unnecessary on his part, except for the fact that he was just trying to get the wink to the people above him. Like, look, I'm Black, but I'm not that guy, you know. And I ain't gonna Malcolm X you. You know what I mean? I'm more passive. I'm cool. I can be cooperative. So he's doing what he needs to do to keep his job longer than he's gonna be able to keep it. Because I don't think he's gonna last long, but he's trying to last as long as he wants to last, right? But that's just me. So that's my thoughts.
I thought it was rather interesting, and you guys both hit it on the nose. Like as far as some of the things that I thought, it was just really random that he felt the need to like throw that in there. For the standpoint of the fact that we're here to talk about this job that you have. You've been a professional. You played in college. You've been coaching for almost 8 years. So for you to be talking about maybe your plans for the team, what you have going on, all of those things. That would be great. But unfortunately, he kind of made it go left, and it was just like, but for why? And the only thing I could really think of it was just to like let people know, like, hey, I want to let you guys know that again, I'm going to, fall in line with whatever the culture has been normally, typically, and how things are being ran. And I just want you to know that although I'm Black, you feel me, I'm very much open to whatever. I don't know what the like, you feel what I'm saying? Like whatever that was. And again, Sam, I totally agree with what you said first. You are absolutely correct. Like people should be able to choose to love whoever they choose to love. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's whatever. Like no one has an issue with that at all. But I think the issue comes in when it's like, you feel the need to like throw that in there, because that's why I was gonna say, like, to me, that goes back to that Kanye statement of like, hey, look at me. It's not necessarily saying I got a gold chain or I got a Ferrari or a Lambo or something like that, but it's just, or a Rolls or whatever car you might want to say. But it's just to say like, look, okay, I don't got that, but look, I got this, you know what I'm saying? And, woo-de-woo, and kind of like making it seem like,
like she's a trophy.
Yeah,
but it's a trophy
like,
because in some
degree, and it was almost like, listen, guys, I'm still like the regular good old boys that y'all have running these institutions before. Woo-de-woo, yes, I'm Black, but my children are mixed and this, that, and the third. Like I have no issues with that, and not being based on skill set, what he looks to do as far as, and that took over the interview, I think, for most places. Like they were looking at that clip as opposed to maybe his plans for the team and how he looks to, restore the prestige that that school has been normally associated with. So yeah, I found that to be very interesting. But I think also we can contrast that to what we were talking about earlier with Steve Stoute, where he took that pause for a second when doing that interview. And it was almost like, I haven't done that in my life, and da-da-da-da-da. You feel me? Right. And I think like this would kind of been a moment in that time where he might have had to think like, was there ever a time in which, I might have had to, play up something else to maybe try to, downplay other things or whatever the case may be, because, you want to feel the need to throw that in there, you know what I mean? Because I guess you hear that they're just, talking about you being black, but you also want to just say, oh, but also look, you feel me? So to me, like that was kind of weird, but I also feel like that's where I feel like we can see the differences, right? Where we got a guy who's been in the industry for a while, got his money, kind of did his own thing, started on other business on the outskirt and in a different time in entertainment. Whereas now we have an individual who is stepping into a position of, you know what I'm saying, executiveness and da-da-da-da, where we had somebody who's been in there and been doing it from inside the machine, and then someone who stepped out to do it on their own, and Steve Stoute, to now we have somebody who is integrating and moving into the system. And so we've seen technically how he is, diversifying or bringing about that type of change in some of the ways in which he's, the behavior in which we see, which to some looks kind of odd, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I do think that there's this whole subscription that in order to be successful as a Black man, you got to have a white wife. Kanye said it himself in one of his songs. Once I get on, I'll leave your ass for a white girl. It's like, come on, like, I mean, I don't know. I've seen it before, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean everybody that's successful does that. I don't know why people may feel as though it's necessary. Like, it's one thing if you just love who you love and that person happens to be a different nationality, right? Like John Legend, right? His wife is Asian, but he loves his wife. Like he loves who he loves. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, that's just how it goes. But like to just go out and select that just so it looks a particular way, it's always just so odd to me. It just never makes sense. Like it's just it's one thing if your spouse just so happens to be a different nationality. Sometimes when that's what you specifically target, just so you can fit this image in your mind of what success looks like. And success doesn't necessarily have to have a color, right? And I think the ideology that you have to have a certain thing or be a certain way or think a certain way and do all of this, I think that's so linear. It's so one track minded. Case in point, and one of the other things that I know we've touched on before off the podcast is, does it happen more with men or does it happen with women? And some of the women that we have seen do that, it doesn't necessarily have to be with as it relates to who their spouse is, but just has that mentality. It's like Stacey Dash. She's a perfect example. She's running up behind Donald Trump. She's bashing Black people. She's bashing the whole culture, the whole nine. Donald Trump loses the election, and then here she is looking to come back to the cookout. And and people looking at her like, not after all of that you just got finished doing. You just pretty much showed your whole behind. So we have a clip of that. And go ahead, you can go ahead and play it.
The Rumor Report with Angela Yee on The Breakfast Club.
Well, E! is releasing a true Hollywood story, and one of the episodes is about Cardi B. Now, she posted on social media, I love E! is welcome back on some of the things that she had. So, looks like it's happening. Now let's talk about Stacey Dash. She is welcome back on some of the things that she has said politically, and she said she's not that person anymore, and she's also quit politics. Here is Stacey Dash talking about it.
I've lived my life being angry, which was what I was on Fox News. I was the angry, conservative Black woman, and at that time in my life, it was who I was. And I realized in 2016 that anger is unsustainable and it will destroy you. What people don't know is that I made a lot of mistakes because of that anger.
And this was on Daily Mail TV. Now, she also talked about Joe Biden and, she was a big Trump supporter before.
Being a supporter of Trump has put me in some kind of box that I do not belong in. I don't hate anyone. I don't know where that comes from. And he's not the president. So I'm going to give the president that we have right now a chance.
Sounds like the phone rang and someone was on the other end saying, "Wake up, nigga." One thing about that nigga wake up call, at some point the phone with the N-word on it will ring. And what's sad is so many people like Stacey Dash who are performative, and now that Trump isn't in power anymore, it doesn't benefit her to keep the performance up. And whatever act she was selling, she has to maintain that in the real world, and that's not even who she is.
This is a wild.
Well, she said, I think the Capitol riots.
Oh man.
So Stacey Dash can have a whole stadium full of seats because she said she realized that she was angry in 2016. The election, what about the 4 years after that? When she was still on Fox News, she was still going out there talking all that yang. My personal opinion is what happened with Stacey Dash is she ended up getting in that crazy fight with her husband, and then they got a divorce, and then she started looking crazy. So what she needed was some support from somewhere, because she wasn't going to get it from the conservatives, because now she looks like the angry Black messy woman, and Black folks is looking at her like, please, you done already turned your back on us. We're cool. We're all set. You better figure it out. It's kind of like Omarosa.
I definitely think there's a couple of different women who've had conservative views. I think Candace Owens was another one who taking that position of being that Black conservative woman. But I also think like she said, because there's always this narrative of an angry Black woman, you know what I'm saying? And I think for her to kind of go in there and then to do that with the mindset of, well, I'm gonna be the angry Black woman, but with a conservative view, as though I feel like you're playing into the narrative. Like, you feel what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, you might be trying to say, yo, I agree with what you guys are doing, but the manner in which you're doing it, it's not like they're gonna be able to say, okay, well, that's a good angry Black woman and that's bad angry Black woman. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's all going to be something that's deemed a stereotype that's going to be associated with, you know, all women that are of color. So that's one of the things I think that she kind of missed on that ticket when she made that statement as well. But also, just like you said, Malik, I think she just realized that this was no longer benefiting her like it was. You know, Trump might be needed some Black faces and some support, and she was willing to kind of that. Be it as it may, you know, it was a celebrity that had a platform, so you know it had a look. She was able to make some things happen where she can prolong that into being on Fox News, and again, I think that's one of the things that I was going to say too, because we were saying the question was brought up against, you know, women versus men who do it, but I also want to say too, you can look at the narrative as far as men who maybe come about doing this. One of the people that we were talking about was, I think, you know, Jason Whitley, I believe his name is, or whatever his name is. Him, I think, you know, we look at Charles Barkley. There's guys that's in the media that that always, thank you, I think it's Whitlock. And he was a conservative, if you will, sports analysis, along with, again, Charles. And these are guys who normally, when there's issues that could be political or maybe issues in which it may even deal with behaviorism, you can kind of understand, find these individuals, because they'll be the type of people to say stuff like, oh, well, they need to be given the, you know, harshest penalties, and you know, they need to just act right, because this is the type of stuff that's needed. Like, you're repeating rhetoric of individuals who don't seem to, like we said earlier, be understanding of people within the normal day-to-day life of the Black community, who walk around, who don't get certain opportunities, who are oftentimes given the short end of the stick, or aren't given due process, if you will, in a lot of situations. And so I think, you know, when we look at who does it, I think we, like you said, it's done on both sides. But I think you also have to do this as well when you're looking at, you know, listening to who you're listening to, or looking at, you know, individuals in certain positions. And if you see that they've been able to sustain themselves in those positions for a while, you have to ask yourself, why are they in these spots? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, are they really spitting anything that is great analysis, or is this somebody who's playing to a narrative that, you know, their network may want, or the owners of their network may want portrayed? And so,
yeah, I think with Stacey Dash, this is her, like Charlamagne saying, getting her Negro wake up call, and this is an example of when her bed wenching goes wrong. All this other time, you know, she's up under these white men. She has her husband. When some bad things go down with him, they get a divorce. Then she's like, oh, Black community. It's the anger within me, trying to play on the emotions of Black feminists. That, you know, I guess, you know, the stereotype of all Black women being angry, and, you know, they have the right to be angry. No, Stacey Dash, you've been cooning it up, throwing Black men and women under the bus, talking about how Black people need to get it together, all this other stuff. But now that the grass isn't so much greener on the other side, now you're like, oh, well, it was just the anger within me. You know, our community is going through some issues here and there with, you know, anger and stuff like that. So I think she was trying to play on that. And, you know, she really didn't really do anything until she got fired and lost all her benefits. Once she lost her benefits, it's like, well, who else do I have to lean on for support? And it's like, oh, well, maybe I can go back to the Black community. If the white community and, you know, that's not working out, maybe the Black community will accept me. So, nah, she can just stay on the other side. They can have her, even though they don't want her either. So, that's how we have to approach it. Like when black people want to come back after they get fired, lose their job, then they're like, well, you guys was right, and they don't start talking about that. Oh, all white people aren't bad talk anymore. They stop all that nonsense. They talk about, you guys are right. The grass isn't greener on the other side, yada, yada. They don't start, she not promoting all this interracial dating, all that other stuff, downplaying black men and women all the time. So they learn their lesson that way.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I think that you can have the perspective that not all white people are bad. You can be attracted to whatever you're attracted to without putting down.
But they always got to downplay black men and women. Like every
That's
time,
what I'm
like,
saying.
well,
you can do that without you can do one
you should
without the other.
interracially date because it's better that way. Like they say that stuff. It's like, it's not like, hey, I found Tom and I loved him and he treated me right. It's like, well, once I found my white man Tom, he was doing stuff no black man ever done. Like it just doing that kind of stuff. Like, oh Lord, come on now. You lucky if you find a Tom, because most black women marry black men, so it's only going to be a few percentage of black women that going to marry.
That number is going up
anyway.
though. That
ain't going up fast enough because they still.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that number is definitely, that ratio is definitely changing. More.
We need to see that census come out.
I just think at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Who cares? Who cares if you want to marry somebody that's black, white, green, brown, purple, yellow, or orange, gay, straight, whatever, transgender? Who cares? That's the person you are with. You know what I'm saying? Like, has no bearing on anything that I'm doing unless you come to me because you caught a case. Like at the end of the day.
Well actually, Sam, I think it matters. It matters to the standpoint of promoting relationships within the black community, right? So,
but that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying, Malik. You can
interracially date though. Like we all can't interracially date.
You can promote that. You can have your own relationship with your person without downplaying somebody else's relationship with their person. Like, if
I agree with that.
If Shaniqua wants to marry Tom, that's Shaniqua and Tom's business. If Tom wants to marry Karen, that's Tom and Karen's business. If Shaniqua and Ray Ray want to get married, that's their business. Or if any of them want to marry freaking Alejandro, who cares? At the end of the day, that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? I don't think that what one person has, I don't think it has any bearing on it. But at the same time, the flip side to the coin is you don't have to look down on somebody else's choices. I can understand the whole having a problem with it when that particular person continues to put you down as a black man or as a black woman. That's a different issue. You know what I'm saying? When you have black men saying, I can't be with a black woman because she's just too difficult. She's just this, she's just that. Or a black woman saying, I can't be with a black man. He ain't nothing. He ain't about this. He ain't about that. And it's like, you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is go be with who makes you happy. You know what I mean? That's my take on it as far as relationships go. And then as far as, moving up on that ladder, whether it be a professional ladder or the executive ladder, these are my final thoughts. I honestly think that you shouldn't have to be somebody that you're not. I think that you should be able to be your own individual self and be able to go about doing things the way that you believe. Case in point, like he said at the top of the show, rest in peace to DMX, right? One thing about DMX is he was his authentic self all the time, and he still reached levels of success. He probably could have gone higher if his demons weren't in the way, but at the same time, he still reached monumental levels of success. Everybody knows who he is. You know what I'm saying? He's made movies. He's done music. He's done so many things. He's inspired so many people. He's saved lives without even knowing it. You know what I mean? And I think that just being who you are and staying true to yourself is what matters. And you can reach any level of success as long as you are who you are. And if the people that are at the proverbial top are trying to create a ceiling to prevent you from doing that, you need to take a different route, because at the end of the day, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And that's my final thought. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I also think that to kind of play into what you were saying, this also should be encouraging. If you find that, you know, people are actively trying to prevent you from doing something, that lets you know that you have something. Like, they're not going to, like, if what you have isn't anything, they're not going to take the time to actually prevent it. So if you do find yourself in a situation like that, let that be an encouragement, because it lets you know that, you know, hey, I must be on to something, because they're working really hard to try to prevent me from doing this. So if I can't get it this direct route, maybe I might have to go to stairs. Maybe I might have to go what they say the third door, which was an excellent book. Let me add it in. Shout out to Chaz Rogers, because he had recommended me that book and I loved it. But like, you know, you find different ways to kind of like, you know, get to where you're trying to go. And I feel like that's one of the messages that we want to make, you know, whether, you know, you feel like, you know, you find a partner in life, whoever that partner might be, you know what I'm saying? And they can help you, whether it's ease your load, doing on a home front, or whether it's to ease your burden financially so that you can get to where you're trying to go, whether it's extra schooling, whether it's extra time that you may need to be putting in, working on your profession to get there, and you guys can help each other, you know, achieve whatever your goals and dreams are, then by all means, you know what I'm saying, be about it if that's what you both want and, you know, you both are happy with that. So I think, you know, having a partner of any race that does that is beneficial, and it helps with ascending. I think another thing that, you know, when we were talking about that as well within this show, and as I'm bringing my thoughts to a close as well, is the fact that as you do ascend, the one thing that I've personally felt as though it was important to do is to make sure that you feel like you're true to yourself. Make sure that you can feel like you're comfortable being yourself in whatever that environment is. And that, you know, ultimately that, you know, you feel as though you're being valued. And I think a lot of times we may see people do a lot of things for self, and for financial gains. And when it's at the risk of, say, the culture, if you will, I think that's when it's too much of a cost. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it might be a cost to yourself to give up your time, maybe to work more, you know what I'm saying? Or to give your time up to educate yourself, to, you know what I'm saying, to find your different lanes in which you may want to invest your time or invest your money in. But to do it in a way or in a manner in which it's harmful for other little boys and girls who may look like you, that's when I think you have to really question yourself. And I want to leave with some examples of individuals who I felt have personified this, as far as ascending through what we would call corporate America, and making a name for themselves while being themselves, and also maintaining, you know, dignity and culture for their people, and ultimately rising their people, inspiring people to be better. And so my first example that I want to use in reference to this is Eric Thomas. I don't know if many people are familiar with him, but Eric Thomas is known as the hip hop preacher. He's very, very phenomenal speaker, motivational speaker. He speaks to many companies around the world. He also does like voiceovers, so you may have heard his voices in some commercials and things of that nature. But he's one person that always, you know, he talked about how he told a story once about how, like, you know, they wanted him to wear a suit to come do to speak to a company one time, and it's like, you know, hey, you know, we need you to wear a suit. He was like, look, I don't wear suits. He was like, you know, hey, well, you know, this is what we're paying. You know, we want you to come in here and do this. And he was like, no, that's not what I do. Like, you know, I wear a ball hat. I wear, you know, Nikes. Like, that's how I do. I'm coming to give you the message. You want the message, or you want, you know what I'm saying, the look. Like, what we going for here? And he talked about being able to like stand on his positioning of how he wants to do things. And to me, that was powerful, because, you know, a lot of times in life, we're taught to, hey, just get along to get along. to do what you need to do to get to where you're trying to go. And a lot of times you have to do those things, but I think, again, you have to figure out what's that cost analysis. Like, what are you willing to bend on? What are you not willing to bend on? And, again, one of the things that me personally, I think that I personally subscribe to, and I think we all do, which is one of the reasons why we've all came together, is, as long as it's something that we personally don't feel like is damaging to us, our family, to our culture, then we're for it. So Eric Thomas was one person. Another person that I said did this, I thought personified it well, was Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey had more of a checkered back pass as far as coming up, maybe being affiliated with gangs and things of that nature. But he still showed a love for his people and the community, which is one of the reasons why some of these gangs were created, was so that it could build something for community, for people to come together and actually look out for each other and fight against other issues that was going on in those communities. But nonetheless, Nipsey was a person that personified this, because it was a person who showed that, if I can't, maybe do this on a record label and they want me to maybe make music a certain type of way, and I want to make it how I want to make it. And in that time, it wasn't the internet era as far as being able to be on your own, independent making it, which I'm not going to say that because there's people like Uncle Luke who's done it before that. But in the era in which Nipsey was coming up on, I think he originally got on with a label that didn't work out. It could have been the story of, one person signed and didn't really do it. But he decided to start doing an independent label, start doing his own thing, build up his own label, own his own masters, buy himself off the contract, invest in himself, looking at other ways to diversify his funds, as well as, rapping. He said he would use, rap money to pay for, building the clothes, or, he'd get the music away, he'd do the rap thing for free, and the clothes would pay for him to get the studio time and stuff up and running. And so we were able to see him kind of personify, one, ingenuity, and with, the online thing, as far as having, the first, clothing line that where you scan it and you close to show a video and things of that nature. I know they said that the NBA ended up doing something like that, where you could scan their jerseys and then play a commercial or something like that. But I think his was like you scan it and might play a video, or you give, content or something like that based off of the clothes. And so that, and then another thing that he did that was really great was he did the whole, I'm buying $100 or was it $100 CDs? I think he did one, and then he did $1,000 CDs. And so, that was another thing where it was like, my niche, customer service, which is the thing that I also learned too, is when you build your brand up like that, when you stay true to who you are, when you do the hard work, you will people who will rock with you, no doubt. And they will be willing to rock with you when they can buy other people's CDs for $10, they'll go buy $100 CD from you. You know what I'm saying? When they could go buy somebody else's for whatever, they'll go buy yours for $1,000, because they believe in your brand, they believe in what you're doing. And so that's why I want to say to anybody who watches this, as you go up, continue to stay down as far as on your beliefs and the things that you hold dear to your heart, write them down, know what it is, so that you don't ever fold on those things, and know that it's possible. It just may take a little longer, but you can do it. And those are some examples of people who have. And I hope that I will also be one for you as well. That's everything for me. On my bad, guys. I know I was talking for a little minute, but that's everything. I just want to say, my name's Everett. Follow me on Instagram, Clubhouse, that guy 2104. Appreciate everybody. Please like, comment, follow. We got the What's Up Wednesdays coming up soon on IG. We always going live on Facebook. You guys, appreciate all the love.
Yeah, guys, you can follow us at the Counterpoise Podcast. You can follow me at Malik M. Foster. All social media is the same, Malik M. Foster. And that's all I have. Oh, one more thing about the topic here. I think it's important to know, if you want to move up, you don't have to necessarily have a, white wife or a different wife, or promote going away from blackness just to be successful. So I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think we all agree in the sentiment. Stay true to who you are, and go after what you want, as opposed to what other people want for you. Because only you know what path God has given for you. So follow that. So Yep. This is a wrap. You can go ahead and follow me on Facebook at Samantha Adams -ESQ. Samantha Adams -ESQ, on IG Samantha Renee 77_ESQ. And thank you for tuning in. Again, like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube on our Counterpoise pages. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Oh, matter of fact, we'll see you.